Welcome to the beat. I'm Ari Melber, and we begin with what is truly disarray in the Republican Party. And if you do normal math, it's supposed to be the ongoing honeymoon period. They did win the White House and the Congress, but they're sure having a hard time staying on point together. Republican leaders are pretty openly, publicly kind of panicking because Elon Musk, who is the largest donor to Donald Trump and until last week an ally of his, is basically trying to kill their big bill, trashing Trump's signature biggest economic priority for legislation again today, and continuing with what he's been saying this week, that it is not just a bad bill or a difference of opinion and ideas, but rather that Musk says Trump's bill is a, quote, disgusting abomination. And there are signs that this is more than a spat, even though it may be a spat, that it's more than White House intrigue, though it includes the intrigue of two men who claimed to work together so well and claimed in that goodbye press conference where Musk explained why he had a black eye and why he was leaving and other various developments where they claimed they'd be working together and see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. That's not the case. It's more than that because this could sink the bill. Musk clearly wanting to show his power and what he's upset with Donald Trump about and focusing on something Trump actually wants to pass when there aren't many votes to spare. Now, there's been a dozen posts by Musk on the platform that he bought, where he can always turn up the volume for himself, which of course cuts against his free speech claims of it being a fair and free market for speech, that he said he would do that. But no, he can do that now legally. And he has been railing against the Trump bill. Just late today here, as we were preparing to come on the air on the beat, Musk said that you want to go ahead and kill this bill. And like Donald Trump, they both know how to tap into memes and culture, and you can see the clear reference to that Tarantino classic, Kill Bill. He has also, we've seen other users having fun with this. And again, I'm showing you this because this is part of the online conversation on X, which still matters a lot to people on the American right, even if others have abandoned it. We see the imagined idea of Elon Musk killing the bill, which is a lot of people at least having fun, if not getting behind the policy idea here that maybe this Trump bill should not pass. Trump is upset. Irked is the word in the Axios reporting, while at Politico, they say this quick disloyalty has angered the White House. One official saying the West Wing is perplexed, unenthused, and disappointed with Musk. Another Musk post is rattling Republicans, where he vows that by next year in November, they will fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. As with any other words from any political figure or business mogul like Musk, what he says doesn't mean he's going to do it. He said a lot about cutting more than he cut. But if you are a Republican in a district where a few million makes a big difference and costs him basically nothing, to him that's a give a penny, take a penny jar, yeah, you're going to notice that. None of this is helping House Republicans get unified. They had a closed door meeting today, and the Speaker spoke to the threat, seeking to, quote, reassure Republicans worried that Musk could come in and primary them. And again, you can be in a red district, but if Elon Musk throws millions in a primary for some other conservative MAGA type Republican, well, you could lose even though you have a lot of Republicans in your district. So the threat is real. The fear is real. Publicly, the Speaker is just pleading with Musk to engage, to get back to him. It even has a kind of a sad Mean Girls feeling where the Speaker of the House, an important job, is, I guess, not important enough to get the return call.
I called Elon last night and he didn't answer, but I hope to talk to him today. And I'd love to talk to him this week and hope he calls me back today.
I haven't spoken to him yet. I've been a little busy, but I left him a message.
I know.
Trying to connect.
She'd be like, why didn't you call me back? And I'd be like, why are you so obsessed with me?
Why don't you call me back? And why are you telling the whole Washington press corps about it more than once? The political reason is obvious. Speaker Johnson is a politician. And whatever vanity or ego one might have about not seeming important enough, the larger ego is he wants to do anything he can in a private phone call or a public sign to try to warm up to Musk, because this is a person who, even after leaving the White House, might be able to flip a couple votes. And if it comes to the House, if they come up with one big, beautiful bill that is coming out of conference and the House has to pass it, Speaker can't afford to lose a couple votes to Elon Musk. The feud has also riveted America, partly because it's easy to follow, right? Some of the Doge cuts, some of the other things we've been following in the rule of law. arena are slow and complicated, important. But this one, just like the Mean Girls episode reference, this one anyone can get. And so the comics, the late night comics, are having a field day.
Trump versus Elon. What an unexpected. I'm not sure who to root for. It's like Diddy versus R. Kelly.
Elon Musk is now blasting President Trump's big, beautiful bill as a disgusting abomination. Yeah, and that's coming from the guy who made the Cybertruck.
Elon has to be careful. You come out that hard against Trump's central legislative achievement, and you're going to be the first white person to get deported.
On and on it goes, some of it quite personal, some of it not actually about what's in this bill. And there are a lot of different things in this bill. We don't really know whether it is majority policy that's concerning Musk or majority personal, given this big breakup they just had. We do know that a lot of what's in the bill is unpopular, and that means it's harder to sell if you have more incoming attacks and more time of people hearing about it. They could hear that it grows the deficit, which traditional conservatives say they don't want to do. They could hear that a lot of the money comes out of the tax coffers and goes towards multimillionaires who don't exactly need much help right now after this season of high prices and inflation and tariffs. A lot of regular people who have regular jobs and don't have millions earning interest have other concerns than sending that money to the super rich. And there's a lot of elements that would slash healthcare. 9 million people could lose healthcare. So I want to remind you the policy matters here. And if people hear more about that, that might hurt the Trump effort, which is interesting because now some Republicans seeing this opening that a big, super recently MAGA person is also attacking the bill has opened up a lane to agree with parts of Musk's takedown.
What do you
Yes.
make of Elon Musk criticizing the one big beautiful bill?
Well, I have to agree with him.
It's the most inefficient piece of crap I've ever seen. I mean, it really is a horrible, horrible bill.
Does what Elon said give you additional kind of help in your quest on this?
Yeah, it certainly bolsters our case. He was in the inside. He showed us with President Trump how to do this. You actually look at the numbers, take the personalities out of it, take the invective out of it, take the insults out of it. Look at the cold, hard facts.
Once this bill votes and this debt ceiling goes through, the debt is owned by the GOP, and there is no more campaigning and saying this is the Democrats. It will be owned by the Republicans, and I think that's a huge mistake.
Huge mistake, says Republican Rand Paul. They will own the debt. And boy, how much debt is it going to be? Over $2 trillion on the decade. That's according to the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. It's hard to take the word trillion and make it mean anything. A lot of us in journalism, we weren't necessarily that great at math. That's why we have this job. But over at HuffPo, they have the number of zeros it takes, right? I mean, it's just a massive amount of debt. Many people have pointed out that when you get to these high numbers of debt, the interest alone, servicing the debt, costs more than other important things like healthcare, which they're cutting, and even Pentagon spending. Which again, if they just didn't do this, right? Musk is saying kill the bill. If they killed this bill, you wouldn't have this many zeros of debt. And that money could either be saved if you're into just refunding it back to the taxpayer, or it could be put towards healthcare and other things. I mentioned that the estimates range. There's some estimates we've seen about 9 million going off healthcare. Others could be 16 million. It depends basically on whether you use the larger number of combining people losing Medicaid and the likely loss under whether it's hard or easier to be on the ACA, the Obamacare. There are others, including a 2025 architect, Project 2025, who's now serving as a budget official for Trump, who are getting grilled on the Hill from the concern. I just showed some of the Republican concern, the deficit concern, the Musk concern. There's also the concerns about this same bill coming at it from a different perspective, concern from the Democrats.
Candidly, Director Vogt, I think your agenda is a danger to our country.
You want a government so broken, so dysfunctional, so starved of resources, so full of incompetent political lackeys and bereft of experts and professionals that its departments and agencies cannot feasibly achieve the goals and the missions to which they are lawfully directed. Waste, fraud, and abuse are not the targets of this administration. They are your primary objectives.
That's how it's going down in Washington. Elon Musk was convinced he could be a very impactful, powerful ally of Donald Trump. It wasn't enough to give money and get something back. That's how a lot of transactional people approach politics. We've covered that and the sometimes alleged conflicts and double dealing of that, but it was more than that. He bought one of the largest platforms in politics that everybody knows about, Twitter, now X. He went out and personally campaigned, including this year, going out in a Wisconsin race that he lost. And he puffed himself up at the cabinet meetings and everywhere else. He wanted to prove how powerful he was. Here we are in a new week and inflection point in the second Trump term, and all of those things are still true, except in the other direction. He seems to want to prove how powerful he is also in stopping Trump priorities. Instead of supporting an economic agenda or helping write it with his so-called efficiency program, he now wants to stop it, or as he would say, kill it. Is he as powerful on the outside as he wanted to be on the inside? That's what we're all about to find out, along with whether this bill that affects so many people is going to be killed. Two experts when we're back in 90 seconds.
I think the Elon Musk thing really caught the president by surprise, and I hear he is furious.
That's how it's going down. For a view from inside Washington, we are joined by Congressman Glenn Ivey, Democrat from Maryland, who's on the powerful House Appropriation Committee in that hearing today that we saw, and our friend, NBC News congressional correspondent, Melanie Zanona. Welcome to both of you, Congressman. Is the bill being killed?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think we're fighting hard to get it done. It only passed out of the House by one vote. So, you know, and the Musk threat of primarying people when he was on Trump's side was certainly significant. Now that he's shifted over, I mean, who knows? And it's also going to be interesting to see what happens in the Senate. You know, so when this thing comes back, what's going to be in it, what's going to be out. But I think things are definitely moving in the right direction from a Democratic perspective.
Have you heard any of your colleagues or House members talk about this as a real thing? If Musk spends money, he can move House Republican seats?
Only on the other side before. I mean, this is pretty new development. Right now, they're still trying to push the idea that this is actually going to save the American people money. You know, I was arguing with one of them on the floor about it. You know, it's not just the CBO, it's Moody's, it's Wall Street Journal, you know, it's Wharton Penn. Everybody other than you guys says this is going to be $3, $4, $5 trillion in debt. So you're not fooling anybody with this.
Melanie?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's too early to know whether Musk is going to have the ability to actually kill this. I will say, though, in talking to Republicans today, most of them are publicly dismissing the idea that Musk is going to have a real big impact here. And I think the reason for that is because for a long time, the reason why Musk had any influence on Capitol Hill is because they viewed him as an extension of President Donald Trump. But they're not viewing him at this moment in that way, especially because in this specific debate, it's Trump versus Elon Musk. And when forced to choose between those two men, most Republicans are going to choose Donald Trump every single time. Now, I will also say at the same time, they've been very careful to not publicly criticize Elon Musk, which I think is also telling. He obviously not only has this very powerful platform on Twitter, he has this big megaphone, but he also does have this really big war chest. And he's showed he's not afraid to play in politics and to spend into election. So I think Republicans are walking a bit of a delicate line here, but I think overall, Musk is not seeming to have an impact, at least in this moment right now.
And the bill seems to be taking on water. I mean, Congressman, there's all the different attacks I mentioned. Some of the attempts to defend it by Republicans on the healthcare front have drawn their own ridicule. Here's Chuck Schumer.
Well, here's the "We Are All Going to Die" act. It says nearly 14 million. It's 16 million, getting closer to 16 million, according to CBO's numbers, we've been told. 11 million people cut off from affordable food, tax cuts for billionaires. We're all going to die, Bill.
Congressman, is that fair? Is that overstated? Is that trolling? And what are, in your view, the biggest concerns about this for regular working people?
Well, I think he just outlined those that have been there and that were actually creating problems from the Republican perspective for a while, even before Elon kind of made the split. But the Medicaid cuts, the impacts that can have on people not getting health care anymore, their local hospitals disappearing, especially in rural areas where the hospitals aren't super close together and access to health care is not great. And there are other versions of this too. I mean, there was Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, who just said, "Oh, wow, that's in the bill." I mean, so it's 1,100 pages. I think there's a lot of landmines in there for Republicans who voted for this thing. And they're going to keep popping up. And I think there are going to be concerns for regular Americans who are going to be, geez, I need that health care, or I need those programs, or I need the financial support that we're getting out of those programs.
Melanie, when you look at this, what else does the Republican Party do if they don't get this version done? I don't know if you feel they have no incentive to discuss that publicly, but what's the plan B?
There really isn't a plan B, and they've refused to sort of discuss the idea. For the most part, most Republicans are refusing to discuss what that would look like if they come up short. I think the general thinking, though, is failure is not an option here for Republicans. This is the single biggest piece of legislation, the most important piece of legislation for President Trump. And also, these tax cuts are set to expire at the end of this year. So there is at least a forcing mechanism in terms of a deadline. But if they aren't able to get this through, there had been talk in the beginning of breaking this up into two different bills. We're calling it the one big, beautiful bill right now. But the reason for that is because there was that initial discussion of trying to get some of the easier pieces through, like the border security funding, which Trump wants and says he needs very badly and very quickly, and trying to get some of that stuff through, and then turning to the tax piece of it later in the year and giving themselves more time to work out these complicated issues. But the thinking amongst leadership is that their best bet is to try to ride the momentum, or whatever perceived momentum there is, and try to get this done now. They're also trying to do the debt ceiling, which they're going to have to address by sometime this summer. At this point, though, they're not really discussing a plan B. This is the only option that is being talked about on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, interesting. And with the tax cuts expiring for the Democrats, time can be on their side, because they've argued that there's no reason to have these big tax cuts for the super wealthy. And if they expire, then that to them is the win. So the status quo, interestingly, on that issue cuts the other way. Congressman Ivey, Melanie Zanona, thanks to both of you. Tonight we turn to a new ruling from a judge that basically shreds Trump's DOJ for the Kafkaesque nightmare that it is teeing up to people who might be caught up in its mass deportation net. Another setback there, and an interesting one, the way it's worded. Another Trump official getting grilled on the trade war. But first, we go live to Jacob Soboroff as we cover the real-world impact of what it looks like in Trump's trade war. Next. This week, President Trump is struggling with that budget agenda we just reported on, but the ongoing tariff agenda also continues to struggle, even though it sometimes is in and out of the headlines. But for many Americans, the ingredients of the manufacturing that is a part of their daily jobs is still going up in price. Trump's new tariffs on steel and aluminum are in effect, and that means cars, planes, home builders, oil drillers, all impacted. And we don't really know where we're headed. Trump has a commerce secretary who has just been blatantly changing what they say the goals are. I'm old enough to remember when they said we're going to get 90 deals in 90 days. That's not happening. And the concerns have gone from the original market shakeup, Republicans initially saying, well, we'll give it time or giving cover, to now Republican leaders clearly seeing that Trump hasn't completely backed down and wondering, when is this going to end? Here's a pretty incredulous Republican senator proposing a hypothetical offer from a foreign country.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, you win. We're going to remove all tariffs and all trade barriers. Would the United States please do the same? Would you accept that deal?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That would be the silliest thing we could do.
What are you negotiating in these trade
deals? Why would we open our bank account and their bank account?
Why are you negotiating trade deals? No tariffs, no trade barriers. In return for us doing the same, you would reject that.
The point is, you've got Republicans who are out in the open pressing Trump officials. Now, this might not be the most important topic to everyone, but all these conversations we've had, when will Republicans stand up on this or that? Well, clearly when their own constituents are looking at this kind of costs, rising prices and tougher to hold on to jobs in the long run if something doesn't change. And suddenly you find they're much more vocal. I mean, that's going right at a cabinet official and basically saying it doesn't make sense. You got to make a change. Out in the country, it's not really a partisan issue. It's approaching 60% saying, looks like this hurts the economy. That 43% that thinks it's boosting the economy is very close to Donald Trump's floor. He often gets somewhere between 38 to 43% of voters. And in Trump land, facts come second. So whether you really think it's boosting the economy or you're just MAGA, that's how you get to 43. As for the majority, they don't like this anymore. And you can see it is still the biggest mistake people say Trump has made in these early 130 days. To get out to reality and the facts, we call on someone who reports pretty much exclusively facts. Jacob Soboroff, our friend and reporter, is in a warehouse in downtown LA as part of this series where Jacob is out with real people in real America. I'll let you take it from here, Jacob.
Ari Melber, they do not get any more real than Bobby Javahiri, who is, I have to disclose, not only the president of Yeti Housewares, but my brother's best friend, a former rec league basketball teammate of mine, but most importantly, someone who is really feeling the pain of those tariffs. Those new steel and aluminum tariffs you just mentioned, he's feeling the pain. The tariffs that were announced at the beginning, he's feeling the pain. I'm going to let him explain. Bob, tell me what we're looking at here, and just show us around. Let's go.
Yeah, so Jacob, Yeti Housewares, founded by my dad, Yeti Javahiri. He's 93 years old. He comes to work every morning.
Stop 1 second, Bobby.
Yeah.
This is your signature product. What is it?
This is an Evolution air fryer, and it is a multifunctional air fryer. It's a dehydrator air fryer, all in one box that has been impacted by the tariffs, both in 2018 or 19 and currently as well.
So walk with me. Take it nice and slow. Explain to me what goes on here and how the tariffs are impacting you guys.
Sure. So basically, all of our products, from dinnerware all the way to rice cookers, all our small appliances, air fryers, sous vides, have been impacted by the Trump tariffs.
That's all this stuff. But some people might say, Bobby, why do you have so much stuff here?
Oh, so basically, in January, when the president got elected, we tried to front load as much as possible in anticipation of the tariffs coming in, but with the thoughts that the tariffs would only be 10 to 20%. Thankfully, we were able to bring in a lot of products in, but we're going dry. As you're going to be able to see downstairs, we don't have that much product left.
And so, you know, you're conservative, right? I mean, is that fair to say?
Yes.
I heard you say elsewhere, you don't feel like the government's working for you. Why?
Well, I mean, the government's supposed to be kind of like your teammate, right? Kind of look out for you. But in this case, we feel, as I've said this before, we feel like we're collateral damage in the middle of a trade war where our government's supposed to be supporting us. I feel like we're getting stabbed in the back. And, you know, there's many obstacles in business, but your government shouldn't be an obstacle when you're trying to conduct business. It's not, you know, we're staying up day and night trying to figure out how the heck we're going to get through this.
But even though there's a lot about Donald Trump that you happen to like.
There are things that I could like. There are things that I do like about the president.
After you.
Which you raise a great point. The 47% or 43%, whatever Ari just showed right there for you, you know, those guys need to have the courage to say, hey, we're MAGA, but we disagree with this policy. Because this should not be a political issue. This should be something that people need to understand. It's going to be impacting and affecting everyone. It doesn't matter. These tariffs are not going to be discriminating against anyone.
You're one guy, Bobby.
Yeah.
And hang it right here for me. Go around these boxes.
Sure.
You're one guy, and this warehouse, I mean, it looks big. I think probably to people on TV, there's a lot of product in here, but we're talking about, I mean, there are countless people that do what you do to the tune of hundreds of millions, billions of dollars.
Sure.
So explain to me what we're seeing here is emblematic of what's happening on a national scale. Go ahead. I'm not following you.
So, as you mentioned, we've been doing this for 40 years. We're one of the pioneers in the housewares industry. There are hundreds of thousands of other importers of housewares goods. I'll just give you an example. Today, me, and I'm sure many others, got their Christmas orders for Ross, for example. I got my Christmas orders for Ross today.
So you sell to Ross?
Yes.
Who else do you sell to?
TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods, et cetera, et cetera. But I just want to let you know, if I got an order today from Ross with price increases implemented in those purchase orders, surely Ross is going to be raising the prices on the goods that they are going to be selling in Christmas. So that is a real example that I can
When
share
you
with
hear the
today.
president say, "No, the price is not going to go up. It's not going to affect people," is it true?
You know, it's so far from the truth. And one more that's just keeps running in my head that is so far from the truth is tariffs are paid by us. We pay it, and in turn, we try to pass it on to the consumer, but in many cases, we're absorbing it ourselves.
Bobby Javahiri, Ari, there is not a better guy, I'm telling you, on planet Earth than this man. It takes a lot of courage, I feel like, to come out and talk about this, especially with, being honest about your politics. This guy works very hard. His family works very hard. This is a family business they've had for a long time. They're hurting. And he wouldn't do this if they weren't hurting. And I'm grateful to him, and I'm grateful to you for sharing his story.
Yeah, I appreciate hearing about it from real people. Every small business, medium or large business has a lot of real people in it. And when we look, I mean, the visual of the boxes, we were saying here, I was just watching you guys, the visual of how much you have to stockpile. And again, for what? What is the rationality of this ongoing trade war and tariffs if at the end of the day, off-ramp looks like it did 6 months ago, and all these extra costs are passed on to both you and your consumers. So it's pretty striking. There we have the overhead shots. Appreciate both of you. Thank you for joining us here on MSNBC tonight. We are going to fit in a break. When we come back, the court loss I mentioned, the Trump administration being accused of Kafkaesque and inhumane tactics as these cases continue to be a big headache for the mass deportation agenda. Stay with us. Tracking some developing news tonight, a brand new setback for the Trump administration in court. This involves the ongoing mass deportation agenda, and specifically some of the Venezuelan migrants who were sent to El Salvador under wartime power claims that have now separately been challenged successfully in court. So the Supreme Court already skeptical of that kind of power claim. Now, a lower court judge in Washington basically saying that the administration is so out over its skis, out of pocket, and unlawful that the judge in this new ruling we just got tonight opens by quoting the infamous Kafka story, The Trial. And that is a scene that is basically the definition of unfair government bureaucracy. The protagonist arrested, but not advised of basic reasoning or rights, like why, and then scolded by officers. The quote here is that the government has plainly deprived these individuals of their right to seek due process before their removal. Read that statement and imagine if this happened to you or a friend sent out of the country with no chance to do anything about it. So we see the word again that we've heard before, that this judge, echoing past judges and the Supreme Court, that the administration must still facilitate, a word that can mean many things or very little according to Trump lawyers, but it must facilitate their ability to seek relief and contest their removal. This is essentially telling the administration there must be some fair process. And the judge, in ruling this way, is creating a new avenue for these lawyers who represent these individuals, even if they're now out of the country, to try to petition for process or release if there is evidence that this was unlawful. The Constitution notes that these kind of rights, called habeas rights, shall not be suspended except in the cases of invasion. But Trump officials have darkly warned maybe they would seize that power without an invasion. Other judges have ruled this immigration issue, while it may be serious and might involve people breaking the law, is not the kind of invasion that you would need to use the wartime powers. So Trump keeps facing setbacks on this. The ultimate question is expected to be dealt with in the Supreme Court, where if he loses outright, he would not be able to use that wartime power for any more such deportations. I'm going to fit in a break, but we have something really interesting coming up. The president has admitted he does want to use the Justice Department to investigate and punish dissent. It could be political opposition, could be the mayor of Newark, who we heard from this week, could be critics and artists. And now we're seeing a very interesting coalition of those folks pushing back, which is our next story. You know, this whole MAGA era we're living through is about policy and politics, but it's been deeply tied to culture. Democrats who long counted on the youth vote, it helped elect Obama, have found younger men turning right and then telling what are sometimes large online audiences that maybe the GOP is now the cooler party. While plenty of certifiably cool artists still oppose Trump, he clearly cares. The president's been threatening to abuse power and investigate Springsteen and Beyonce just for exercising their free speech and artistic rights to sometimes oppose him. All of this shows how the styles, themes, and ideas in culture still carry so much power. Take a celebrated artist, Logic, whose music has explored philosophy, race, identity, mental health, and what it even means to be a nerd, something we can relate to around here. He's got tracks that have shaped how millions of listeners arguably consider or view some of those issues. Logic joined our Maverick series and actually did a first for MSNBC because he's also a talented producer. He composed a hip-hop instrumental from scratch during that interview. That's footage of when that happened, and then invited us to consult on the sound. He literally brought the beat to the beat, an unscripted one-take moment, which also had him freestyling, and we've used that beat on this very program. All of that is by way of introduction. The Grammy winner Logic, now a filmmaker, is back. Hey, Grammy nominated.
No, it's all good. You know, I'm awkward. I'm so happy to be here. First and foremost, I want to shout out my manager, Brandon Barrett's parents watching. Your boy is crushing it. That's my homie.
What are Brandon's parents' names? Put you on the spot.
I should know.
He should have told you?
know.
Brandon's
I'm
parents.
Brandon's parents.
Let's go right here.
He's over there.
Brandon's parents. Thanks for watching. All right. I love that.
All right. Sorry.
Welcome back. We sat down with you. Let's start with the point, whatever level you get into it on, that you have a government in America that's actually trying to tell people what not to say.
Yeah.
You've never shied away from being a pretty vocal artist. How do you feel about all that?
I think it's whack. You know what I mean? Honestly, I was thinking, I was like, I don't know how you do this. I don't know how you consume yourself with like everything that goes on in the world. Cause it is a crazy, scary world. But you're here to inform. And, you know, as far as myself, when it comes to the art, that's what I try to do. I just spread a
But you don't seem to think twice about, like, not only whether people say you're allowed to say this, but if it's, like I alluded to, cool. The ideas of what makes a rapper, you subverted that in ways that your audience loves.
Yeah, 1000%. It's fun. I actually look like I'm in a gang, but these are all just like video games and like different movie titles and stuff like that. Yeah, man, I never fit in, and that's okay. You know, Alan Watts, I love this quote from the philosopher, says, anything you can be interested in, you'll find others who are. I say it everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And so whenever I made my art and continue to make my art, I make it for those that I think will enjoy it, not for people who would oppose it, because they're going to do that no matter what.
Respect. And that's the thing about, I mentioned respect. I mentioned that about nerd culture. Back in the days, it was albums and zines. Now you have the internet, and a lot of social media kind of goes to what the biggest clickbait thing is.
Dude,
but go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's like my life. Like I remember going on the internet when like Ashton Kutcher had the most followers, 1 million followers on Twitter, and people would tweet things like, just ate some eggs. Like there was a time.
Yeah, there was a time.
That's all that was, you know, and that's why so I feel like I at least got to see a nice, good part of the internet before it went insane.
It's so funny, Logic, like that we're talking about this, because I totally feel that way. We were just covering tonight Musk using Twitter to go on this crusade. But I remember when Twitter was like this experimental reporting tool and different people were just trying things. It was a whole different energy. I want to show also why you're in New York.
Yeah.
Tribeca film premiere. You're acting, you're directing. The comedy is Paradise Lost.
Paradise Records.
I'm so sorry. Paradise Lost is
right here.
Old book. Paradise Records. I got to read better.
No,
Thank you for that. Now, you play a record shop owner who's struggling to keep his business open in these financial times with the way banks and other entities are. Let's take a look. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't even have this. I was hoping to play a shot, but we'll show the video. I know you have your dad in it.
Oh, yeah.
What's it like getting your dad in there, and what does this project mean to you?
Oh, man. It's crazy having my dad in there, which is really funny because I just called him and he was like, is it paying? And I was like, yes, Dad, it's paying.
You got to negotiate with your own dad?
Yeah, exactly. But it was so cool having him and so many of my friends. I mean, imagine like, there's like I paid for this millions and millions of dollars myself. I believed in this. Kevin Smith edited it. He believed in me. I couldn't believe it. But it's after years and years of going through Hollywood and being told no and hurry up and wait. And I mean, I can kind of understand. Imagine, you know, you're a studio head and I go, hey, I wrote a movie and I want full credit. And I also want to direct this film, even though I've never directed anything. I also want to star in it, even though I've never starred in it. And I want my best friend, T-Man, the wizard, to be in it. Also, full creative control and final cut.
Good for you on the final cut.
But it's like, what would you say?
Yeah, what would you say?
So that's why I did it myself.
I love that you did it yourself. Now I'm going to do the TV thing and say, let's take a look.
Okay. Thank you for meeting me, sir. Just need another extension. Just need one more extension.
How the hell do you owe $178,000?
There's got to be something I can do to save my business.
There's nothing you can do.
I taught you better than that. You a black man. Where you hear I was losing the shop? I heard everything in the street.
You in the streets at 70?
What if we just sold a bunch of inventory?
Not to sound like that's literally what I try to do every single day for a living.
Are we seeing, what percent logic are we seeing?
You mean like
In
of
the character.
of the character I'm
Yeah.
playing? It's literally just, it's me in a ridiculous situation. That's what I think any good
It is
actor,
you.
it's just, yeah, but it's just like be yourself, but if this happened to you.
Because you're kind of funny, and hip hop is something that you do. You're a rapper. But a lot of artists, as you know, at least in public, rappers are really not about being goofy.
Yeah, no, because they're lame. I'm cool.
You're cool.
And I think it's cool to be yourself and not try to have, this persona. Also, shout out my wife, Brittany. I love you. You're my rock.
Wow, we're doing all the shout outs.
I am a rapper. Yeah, so I have to do that. Okay, sorry.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Shout out to shout outs.
Shout out to shout outs.
Because it's not every discourse that allows you to just do that and show love. My friends and I, how people belittle? My friends and I talk about be-larging.
Wow.
So we'll be like, just let's start at the start of the meal and have that tradition. They say something great about another friend, right? It is a great part of hip hop that you do shout outs, because in other discourses, you don't just in the middle get to say, like, also, shout out to this person, place, or thing.
1,000%, man.
Respect.
Man, I'm so excited. I'm like nervous excited right now. I think my neck's a little red sometimes.
No, you look great. Live TV.
The whole thing.
So in the film, the comedy was written. I mean, you're such a creative force here. It's written, or some of it kind of came out of the vibes of like these situations?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we wrote, we had it all there. We would do the take, and then I just let my actors be free and have fun. And if they can beat the dialogue, then they're only going to make me look better.
Yeah.
They're going to get to shine. So
Yeah, 'cause
a lot of improv.
And you see that energy in the improv, and it feels, I mean, in a way, it feels fresh or young. Like, it doesn't feel like it was overly planned. I got to ask you, because we have our overlap with your lyrics. You got a new lyric where you say, I'm focused like a first AC. I pass the bills like AOC.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Love that. And yeah, ever since I've really dived into cinema, I mean, it's always been such a part of my life. I've loved to make references, but now that I actually understand like what a first AC does, assistant camera or first AD, and then, passing the bills to my wife, like AOC, because like, I'll throw the card down and my wife is better at math, so she does the tip for me.
But can we break it down? Just to be clear, we got the good headline here. You see you on the news. AOC name dropped a new song.
Hey.
You're saying passing bills at a restaurant to your wife, or the way AOC passes bills legislation?
Exactly.
Boom.
Boom. Both of them.
So
This is why I love you.
This is what we do. So you like AOC?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I'm not a big political guy.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I watch anime.
Respect.
But I have people who are there that keep me tapped to the streets or the courtrooms of like what's going on. And I think at the end of the day, in my heart of hearts, it's like you can believe what you want or not, or be with who you want or not, or this or that. I think everybody is entitled to their opinion, their beliefs, but we gotta kill each other over it.
Respect.
That's all I'm saying.
In closing, we're doing our mini lightning round like we've done before, but this one's even faster.
Shout out Tribeca.
Finish this sentence. The nerdiest thing about me is?
My skin and tattoos.
The problem with AI and music is?
It's not real.
It's not real. The thing that Joe Budden and I have in common is?
We're both black men.
Success means?
Happiness.
Failure means?
That's a really good one. I'd have to say experience.
And finally, people should check out your new film, Paradise Records, because
it's awesome and it's at Tribeca and sold out all my showings in the first 24 hours. Let's go.
Let's go, Logic. Thanks for coming back. Great to see you again. Take a
Appreciate
lighter.
it.
All right, we'll be right back. In today's news alone, we heard from a Republican senator questioning a Trump official on whether this whole trade war thing is working at all. And then we heard directly from a real business owner, self-identified conservative, about the lengths they have to go to deal with what they view as very unhelpful, costly Trump tariffs. Our friend Jacob Soboroff reporting on that. On a lighter note here, before we end the hour, in the same topic, let's not forget how tariffs have played across pop culture.
The Great Depression
passed anyone? A tariff bill?
You put the tariffs in, you put the tariff out, you put the tariffs in, and you shake them all about.
That's a smoke detector.
Right. Well, it's rebranded as a musical instrument.
And of course, you're doing that for what reason? To
avoid the tariffs.
The Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which anyone raised or lowered, raised tariffs.
We can keep tariffs on Cuban sugar high. A way you can keep them high enough to protect my farmers.
E-scooters have taken off this year. Now they face a 25% tariff.
Okay, I hate to admit this, but if one of the key casualties of this trade war is e-scooters, I actually think I'm fine with that.
Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Anyone? My closing question to you, tell me online at any social media you use at Ari Melber, what is your favorite tariff joke? I know, a little nerdy, but you just got some examples. We're open to others. Your favorite tariff joke, you can tell me at Ari Melber or go to arimelber.com to connect with me right now. I'll be looking out for your answers and the lols.